Hello. How's everybody doing? Um, Chaotic says, this just really touched my heart. Ah, I'm going to miss this one. Sorry, going to Costco. Yes, I'm going without you, Mel, but I still love ya with some like heart emojis. It's okay. I mean, I know it's your Friday with Costco, so I get it. I'm grounded from Costco again because the last time I went, it's like you can't go there for under $350. But then I got home and I didn't have anywhere to put all of the shit that I just bought. So it was then that was triggering because everything's got to have its place. I'm very minimalist. So bulk is difficult for me. I did go without you. We're even now. Hey, Sloopy. Hey, Jill. Hey, Dustin. I think I saw I Love Marbles. Chick Cash David says he's at a track meet. That's perfectly fine. It is the middle of the day on a Friday, but this is the time that I had available, and I've been. I'm supposed to do. I had planned to do this one. I'm terrible with time, so whenever I did the last live, that was kind of like breaking news with the 7 people found on property. The update on that was the unidentified, the 3 unidentified ended up being his wife or girlfriend and her 3 children. And yeah, just a doozy of another example of just the gravity of man, like. And I'm trying to did a live earlier today on L.A. Wilkes, on Rasheem Carter. And man, that is how do you even sum it up into a sentence? It's wild, and I think that once all is said and done, it's going to be a really good. I was just talking to Mayo. He was on the show too, and he'd said, like he wanted to do another live like after everything is all said and done, and facts are actually out there, and just the cause and effect of what sensationalism and media and running an agenda can damage a case. And then just the simplest things were so hard to find because they're overshadowed by the lawyer, really. It's just crazy. So it's kind of hard to switch my brain because that's what I've been literally. You guys know how I am. I get on a topic and it is I devour it, and I love research, and so that's where I get the most enjoyment. Lives are great, but they're a lot of work, but putting it all together and being able to present it, and not give a fork if I'm boring, I think that boring is underrated. Hey, Cher, so good to see you here. So good to see you. Grandma Sherry, thank you for being here. Oh no, Dustin. I will go to trials, but that's about it. I'm not I know my my strengths and my weaknesses. But hey Willie, good to see you here. All right, so when the prosecutor, McLeland, when he made the affidavit, the probable cause for the arrest warrant affidavit, sealed, it reminded me of a case, and I've been looking for it I knew it was in Indiana. I knew there were similar circumstances, not necessarily that the crimes were similar, but that the way the adjudication of it had some similarities, and I literally cannot think of the name forever. So I think it was maybe last week or the week before. Like I said, I'm terrible with time. I was watching Thomas Frost, and he was covering the still unsolved, considered, that she is a murder, but they've never found her body, of Lauren Spears, a student at IU. And there was also, I knew there were other students at IU that had gone missing. Two were found and they had been murdered. And that's when it finally it was Jill Biermann, the case that I had been trying to figure out for all these months because I wanted to do this live. So thank you, Thomas, for doing Lauren Spears. It triggered my memory to find the Jill Biermann case. And yeah, so basically I just kind of want to go through the similarities, just to shine a light on, again, just being reasonable minded, and shining a light on the adjudication process of other cases that have gone through appeals and are considered success. Now, I do want to preface that with the Jill Biermann case. When I read some of these things, it can, if you don't know the history of trial court and this process, it can be like you can question the evidence that was presented at trial to the jury, because it is a very circumstantial case. We don't know what is going on with Richard Allen being the alleged killer of Abby and Libby. It has not gone through the entire process, but the things that they have tried to do so far with suppressing, keeping the information sealed, is the first similarity that we see. And then, when you read the probable cause, even though basic minded, just logic would tell you that there's more that they do not have to put that in, that it just has to be enough that a judge would say you have enough to go ahead and charge this person. And so that's what we're seeing. There could be, I don't even think at the time it was written that there would have been enough time for any processing through a lab, DNA or whatnot, or whatever they found from the search of his home. So, there's a lot of unknowns, but as it stands right now with the PCA that we do have available to us, it is circumstantial. It's based on witnesses and a unspent round, and just the some video footage, and reasoning, his own statements early on that he placing himself there, different things like that. But so far, like, there isn't, like, when I read the PCA for Ashley Garth, it was it was chock full of information, you know, of DNA and all of the things that you would expect to see in a PCA for murder, you know, because there is no bond on murder in Indiana except for when the defense motions for it. So I'm not sure why they don't do that every time. But now the burden of proof lays with the prosecutor to prove that they have enough. It's at a ratio that this person would be found guilty at a trial of their peers. So basically, when a meaningful bond hearing is requested upon the courts, you know, legislation that they're going to do that. And so the downfall of that is that the media, whoever is present in the courtroom, now has the details of a future jury trial. And like in Ashley Garth's case, even though the probable cause was overwhelming, that a jury of her peers would find her guilty just based on the DNA evidence and all of the other details that were in that one. He still chose to not try his case before the actual trial. So she was released, and a bond was given to her, and her family eventually did pay it, and she was out before her trial, which is never an easy thing for the family. And I truly hope that you know, it was one of those things where once it was all said and done, I think that Nicole's family appreciated that fact. But in that moment, when they decided to give her bond, it was so upsetting, you know, as any family would be upset. She's out. She lives not far from them. It's just not a good situation. But when it was all said and done, you know, and watching how the trial proceeded and how they're supposed to, it gave you, you know, like, okay, like that sucked, but it was worth it. It's just couple words of encouragement for the families of Abigail Williams and Liberty German. Hey, Gypsy. The Gray Pill Podcast. All right. How are you? French? Yeah. Yeah, they are. Closing statements by the prosecutors were powerful. Yeah, I caught a couple clips of that. I have to add a spooky note just for you. I got new goodies today. Oh boy. Well, that's scary. Literally. All right. Hey, B-Rad. All right, I'm going to get started. Oh, no. You guys hear me okay? I don't know why I don't just write it down before I need to turn the echo cancellation off or leave it on. But just let me know that you can hear me because once I click off the screen, I can't see the chat. But I'm going to take a second to look at my phone. Hey, Sharon. Good to see you. Make sure you guys can hear me. All right. Thank you, Georgina. Good to see you. Okay. So this is Jill Biermann. She was 19 years old when she disappeared on May 31st of 2000. She was on a bike ride. She was an avid biker. She was in like a biking, like, I don't know what you call it. I've never been a avid biker, but like a bicycle club, where they rode around, did a lot. Like, she was very into that. And that was what she was doing on the day that she disappeared. She was on a bike ride, and just on the southeast side of Bloomington, Indiana. She I went through the newspapers systematically from, the first articles that I could find. And now some of this I put in there later, discounted by the dogs and the timing. Like, once they got farther into investigating the case, this sighting at Harrell and Moffett Lane was discounted. The witnesses sees Jill on North Maple Grove Road at about 10 a.m. She had logged off of her computer at 9:32. Her bicycle was later found on June 2nd, a few miles north of Stout Creek. Now, when we go over to Google, I'll be able to show you guys, some of these places, so it'll start to kind of make sense. These are just some basic facts of the case. On April 23rd, this gives a timeline, which I've already I just did it, but I like to have references. So on Thursday, March 13th of 2003, so close to 3 years after she disappeared, her remains were found in Martinsville, Indiana. And now, early on in this case, the FBI, like the investigators on the case, there was this woman that came forward and implicated herself and two other gentlemen as killing Jill. And the Stout Creek, and they focused all of they believed her, and then they found some things in Stout Creek that were odd, so they really ran with that narrative of this girl that literally was implicating herself in these two others, but the manner of death was what, once they found her body, it was obvious that none of the things that the woman said were true. And so then they kind of had to go back, see where I'm seeing like similarities and things with this case, even though we didn't have someone, falsely saying they did it with throughout all of the avenues and like the new direction that they took in the Delphi case, and so they had to basically like kind of go a different route. They had to reframe. It's called reframing an investigation, but reframe the case. And that is what they did in 2019 with Delphi. Now, we don't know all the details of that, so we can't jump too far into the conclusion pool. But so once her remains were found in Martinsville, so, she disappeared in Bloomington, her remains were found in Martinsville in a wooded area, nowhere, like not in a creek. But on Friday, March 14th, they did hold a press conference. And I think this was one of the articles I did want to. I just forget how to get rid of that. There. So these are the suspect, the three. Owings is the one. Sorry, I could have swore it was two other men, but I guess that's a woman there. Was the one that gave this that implicated themselves. It was like really crazy. Uriah Klaus, 26, Wendy Owings, 29, and Alicia Souders, 23, have been named as suspects in Jill Biermann's disappearance. The attorney for Klaus said Thursday the location of Biermann's remains was evidence of his client's innocence. Bedford attorney John Plummer III said he doubts Behrman's body was ever in the South Flowing Creek near Bloomington, as one suspect had said, because the remains were found so far north of it. It does not make sense scientifically unless the body was moved, said Plummer. Tonight, my thoughts and prayers are with the family. Investigators looking into the disappearance of 19-year-old Indiana University student said during a news conference Thursday evening that the case now has an end and a new beginning. The end is because the remains of Jill Biermann have been found. The beginning is working back from where the remains were found to determine who killed her. Behrman disappeared May 31st of 2000 from the Bloomington area. She had been riding her bike, which was later found on a county road with damage indicating it had been hit by a vehicle. Despite extensive searching by authorities, friends, and family members, there was no trace of her until Sunday. The news conference marked the end of nearly 4 days of intensive investigation after human bones were found Sunday by a man and his son looking for game trails on land north of Paragon, Indiana. The parking area around the courthouse was filled to capacity. The courtroom was so packed with cameras and reporters that the people involved in the conference had difficulty getting to their seats. Again, small courtroom. Not since the murder trial of Judy Kirby had so many reporters attended an event in Martinsville. After the discovery of the bones, authorities were called to the wooded area near the intersection of Duckworth and Worthen roads. After 2 days of searching, a nearly complete skeleton and some personal effects were discovered. One item searchers found was a jawbone with teeth. They were matched with Behrman's dental records. Authorities from Monroe and Morgan County, along with a representative of the Behrman family, Christopher Simpson, attended the news conference. Retired FBI agent Gary Dunn and Bloomington Captain Joe Walters were also present. Indiana State Police Sergeant Dave Burston, which is a name we're familiar with, acted as coordinator for the conference and accepted questions from the media. Burston said that since the Behrman case was still active, there were many areas that could not be discussed. Simpson read a statement from Behrman's family in which they thanked everyone for their support. They gave special recognition to the investigators who never stopped looking for their daughter. The family said now they could start mourning the loss of their daughter. They said at a future time they would meet with the media, but for now they needed time to themselves. So that's just kind of a synopsis of what we already read. And then Garner said the road would be used as a staging area. Officers are keeping a 24-hour watch on the area to keep people away, which is something that they did during the Delphi case. Everybody made a big hoopla over it that they were trying to keep the FBI away when really they were just trying to protect the scene from looky-loos. The investigators plan to remove brush and other items so the forensic pathologist from the University of Indianapolis can resift the area for clues. Due to the hard winter, the ground had been frozen solid. Investigators hope the warm weather will thaw the ground, making searching easier. On June 2nd, Rick Lang, he was the lead investigator, I believe. He tells the media that he expects to make 2 arrests in relation to Behrman's murder. On March 1st of 2006, the prosecutor called for a grand jury, and the grand jury began on March 13th of 2006. On March 13th as well, the judge denies the newspapers motion to release case information. So that's what we saw the media do in the Delphi case, was they petitioned the court for the suppression of evidence to be released under the what is it called? Public Access Act, basically. So Freedom of Information Act is federal, and then public access is, at least that's what the act is called in Indiana. So they decided to keep the records sealed. And this is just, as they're proceeding through this now, a grand jury is not what happened in Delphi. And then the grand jury presents a true bill to the courts, and the judge still has the final say. But yeah, so that's what happened. The media was not happy. This was a very big case in 2000. I mean, it had as much coverage. I mean, obviously not 23 years later, like what we see now, because of the internet and like more abilities to stream and things like that. But back then, to have a small town like Martinsville, and this was a huge case, and a small town, small courtroom for sure. But yeah, so the grand jury did come back and with an indictment, a true bill, and the judge signed off of it. And on April 10th of 2006, John R. Myers was arrested on an indictment from the grand jury. I put this in here, but I wasn't able to get any more information on this part about that day where they said that his red car matched a car seen by the witness on Maple Grove. I don't know where that ever came into play as far as later on in the appeals. So there's a hearing to be held about a FOIA request. This happens on June 3rd. So this is yet another media request seeking information because the case had been so locked down. And under the act, like the media does have, they had every right to do this, but a judge has the indiscretion, end discretion. His discretion is what, the media came in with their lawyers, just like what we saw in Delphi. The prosecution has his argument against, they have their argument before, and the judge makes the decision. And the decision was to keep everything pretty sealed up tight. Said Friday he might reveal what killed the 19-year-old Indiana University. The cause and manner of death and other information in the autopsy have been sealed since December of 2003 by order of Morgan County Superior Court Judge Thomas Gray. At the time, he agreed with prosecutors that disclosing the information before an arrest was made could hurt the investigation. And this continues on throughout the trial. That was an earlier one. Gray had scheduled a hearing on the Herald-Times request for 9 a.m. Thursday. Morgan County prosecutor Steve Sonega said he might decide to release the cause and manner of death if other details about the slayings, things only the killer would know, could be kept secret. But he said he would oppose releasing the entire autopsy because he feels it would intrude on Biermann's medical privacy. Sonega said that he would talk to the Morgan County coroner Monday about what information. So releasing the death certificate, which lists the cause and manner of death from the medical examiner, is different from the actual autopsy. The media was really just wanting I don't see where they petitioned for the autopsy, and that would not be a normal thing that the media would have access to necessarily in an unadjudicated case. But the death certificate, the cause and manner of death, is definitely something that they would be privy to. That is something that is normally released to the media, and also the PCA and different things like that. Like, so the true bill, like what is in there that you were able to reach this conclusion that you charged this person with murder. So June 9th, he refuses to release the information. Remember, this is after his arrest in April. So he is in custody during all of this. July 11th, the trial court information on discovery. I have no idea what, like I did this a month ago, so I'm having to remember why I typed some of the things that I typed. It was a delay. So basically the county council members appropriated $107,800 to cover the cost of depositions and for transporting, housing, and feeding the 12 jurors and 2 alternates who will hear evidence in the case. So the jury was sequestered, and the jury was outside of the jurisdiction of Morgan County, which is the county that Martinsville is in. So another similarity that we'll see that this trial had with Delphi. Patrick Baker, the attorney representing John Myers II, asked for a continuance during a 7-minute pretrial hearing Monday afternoon before Morgan Superior Court Judge Christopher Behrman. Baker said he would like more time for a discovery, which is the exchange of witness names and the information they will testify to. Morgan County prosecutor Steve Senega said another reason to postpone the trial is Martinsville's Fall Foliage Festival. So basically they were in agreement that of postponement. So remember that in just a constitutional right is to a speedy trial. So that happens in Indiana at least in 90 days. And except for when the defense requests a motion for extended time. And that's when you start to see continuance after continuance after continuance. But it has to be in the court of record in order for, if it's not, then the prosecutor has 90 days to bring this person to trial. So a similarity there. I think that was all that I really on that. They do have a meeting in September due to the evidence not being released to the public. So just again, more similarities. After less than 15 minutes, Monday's hearing was the longest pretrial hearing held since John R. Myers II was charged with killing 19-year-old Jill Biermann in April. Morgan County Superior Court Judge Christopher Behrman, Morgan County Prosecutor Steve Senega, and defense attorneys Patrick and Hugh Baker. So he had 2 attorneys working for him on the state's dime. They were not hired. They were, what are they called? It's drawing a blank, like complete blank. Help me out. But you guys know what I'm talking about. They disappeared in May of 2000 while riding her bicycle. Her body was found near Paragon. Considered secret, the court has taken the position that nearly everything connected with the case is also secret and cannot be discussed in open court. So this is the decision by the judge. All discussions are taking place in the judge's chambers or jury room, apparently without being recorded. The public file on Myers, while more than an inch thick, contains very little information about the case. Most of the file is a motion made by Myers' attorneys for a change of venue for the trial, and a motion that was denied. The open portion of Monday's hearing dealt with the defense requests for notes from previous investigators in the case. The defense also wants the criminal history, if any, of several of the prosecution's witnesses. So he's basically wanting to discredit the witnesses, which is standard for a defense attorney to do. The motions, which is in the public file, had the names of the witnesses removed. So what he's saying is the state sent them over in the discovery a redacted witness statements transcripts. So Sonega said that they had agreed to provide criminal histories of those witnesses. He said that the state would request the notes of the investigators, but Sonega questioned why, when the investigators were disposed, the defense made no mention of them. Then there was a mysterious document which both sides and the judge discussed in indirect terms. They implied that a copy of this document was used by a handwriting expert to make a comparison. The defense wants the original of the document to be used and not a copy. Santega said at this time the original cannot be found. He said they have checked in several locations and with several agencies, and it may not exist. The judge asked where the duplicate came from, and Sonega said from the FBI. Burnham asked the prosecution to keep searching for the document, saying he will rule on the admissibility of the testimony later. Baker also filed a motion with the court. Burnham sealed that motion and said he would decide on it when the trial starts in October. Also pending are motions to allow the jury to see the location where Behrman's body was found, a motion to bar the defense from mentioning that some of its witnesses took polygraph tests, and a motion by the prosecution to allow the admittance of a limited amount of Myers' history it feels is needed to show he killed Behrman. What that history is has also been sealed by the court. Prosecutor Robert Klein had filed with the court a list of aggravators which should be used by the court to determine the maximum sentence Myers should receive. At this time, jury selection is set to begin on October 2nd. The trial will begin October 16th. The court has set no other hearings. Another article where more evidence is kept from the media as things proceed. This is the day before the trial is to begin. And on October 20th, John R. Myers II is convicted and sentenced to 65 years by Judge Burnham. On January 3rd of 2007 is when we see, John R. Myers' murder trial day by day. This is like a day by, it was in the paper. The report, the jury misconduct, prosecution withholding evidence claims, all asking for a new trial, basically. And then the things that the defense used during their witnesses and their opening and closing arguments were hard for the family to hear. They basically tried to assert that Jill was having an affair with an older married man and was pregnant, and that he's the one that killed her. And just like they said in their opening arguments that they were going to prove these things without a shadow of a doubt during the course of the trial, and they did not do that. Not at all. That never came to any type of fruition. It was basically just like I don't know, I call those like inciting type statements, and then those ones that would cause you to be doubtful of this person's guilt, John R. Myers. Um, then, this is another big thing too with this case is the attorney. Now, this is in 2013. You got to remember these appeals, post-conviction relief, they've all been going on. Anytime, he has been given a chance up until literally now. Right now, there's a judge that is sitting somewhere deciding on this case. This is why when a murderer who is guilty, pleads guilty, and they take, even though it may be not what we want, not what necessarily what the families want, I'm telling you, it is for the best. And this is why. This is exactly what the families have to go through. For how many years is this? This is 2000. It was tried in 2006. It's 2023. You see what I mean? So every time this goes for an appeal of any type, and he almost got out at one point. Okay. Like you'll find that out here in a little bit. Like this dude almost got out. A judge was going to let him out because of the COVID crap. And they hurried up and did an emergency motion to keep him where he belongs. I got to get some chapstick. Hey, Stephanie. Hey, Ruckus. Good to see you. Grandmasaurus. I love these names. Hey, wife Lilith. Hey, Monica. Hey, Thomas. Were your ears burning? Hey, Polly. Hey, Ivy. It's good to see you. Hey, Bob. Good to see you, too. Hey, GP. I hope you're doing good, girl. Okay. Where was I? So his attorney, he did end up because of that stuff that I was talking to you about earlier, of, just like throwing out these things, a part of it. But Baker alleges the prosecution withheld information from the defense, which changed the jury's verdict. Baker also alleges, this is his attorney, the jury and court personnel acted improperly during the trial. The information, Baker said, the defense never received concerns statements are an inmate in the Indiana Department of Corrections made to the Indianapolis Police Detective Rick Lang. During his investigation into Behrman's murder, Lang interviewed inmate Bernard DiStefano in prison. Lang said the information DiStefano gave about the case could not be confirmed. In his motion, Baker said after Myers' family held a press conference on December 20th, a man named Michael Bays contacted John's mother, Jody Myers, and said he found a bicycle helmet identical to the one worn by Jill Biermann in photos posted on the Search for Jill website. Bays said he gave the helmet to Detective Tony Pope, who was working on the case at the time. Baker said in his motion that he was never told of the helmet discovery and was never allowed to have the item examined for evidence. Jury misconduct. Baker said despite his repeated requests for the court refused to grant a change of venue for the case and selected a jury. Oh, it was from Morgan County. The jury was from Morgan County. Baker said he was assured the jury would be sequestered and that his client would receive a fair trial. He said the court assured him the jury would not have access to outside information that could compromise their verdict. But Baker said before the jury began deliberations, the court received information. The jury might have received information from outside sources on the case. Baker said the court had done an investigation to determine if the jury had been compromised. Baker said he was unhappy the court had assigned Morgan County Detective Sergeant Gary Long to the investigation because Long was also one of the guards assigned to the jury. According to Long's report filed with the court, Baker said the son of the juror number 3 dropped off a television at the motel where the jury was staying. Baker said that Long's report also says the court bailiffs allowed cell phones use by jury members, which was a violation of the court's instructions. So it just goes on to list all these things that he was unhappy about. But I don't know where it is. Maybe it's here, this one. Yeah, this was the one I meant to read. Sorry about that. So Patrick Baker, the attorney for the defense, offers an apologies Tuesday to a murder victim's father and to the mother of the man convicted 6 years ago of killing Indiana University student Jill Biermann. He addressed Eric Behrman during a Morgan Superior Court hearing that will determine if John Myers II, sentenced to 65 years in prison, will get a new trial because of Baker's ineffective representation. I know I had to bring things out about my personal life, about her personal life, that were not so pleasant to you, Mr. Behrman, Baker said to the witness chair after his testimony ended. I want to apologize. Behrman sat silent. During the 2006 trial, Baker alleged that 19-year-old murder victim may have had a sexual relationship with a married man and could have been pregnant when she was shot to death in 2000. There was no strong evidence to back up the claims. Behrman's parents were furious at the time and spoke to the media about the unfairness of making false accusations that tarnish a victim's reputation. But these are strategies, this is what happens in criminal court, in trials, what we're seeing now in Delphi, everything, it's strategic, this is not, it's not great to say out loud, and it's not something that you want to hear. But it's just simply, it just is the truth, a lot of trials are based on who has the best strategy and what is allowed before a jury. There's so much evidence that gets suppressed before a jury could even, take it into consideration for their verdict. And it's a lot more about what can be proved in a court of law and not what is the truth. But you see where his attorney is trying to purport probable cause for his client to not be guilty, that there could be another explanation as to her disappearance and murder. The thing is, he did not prove that. So he was just making defamatory statements in his opening argument and never did, never produced any proof whatsoever. And that's why he was kind of held accountable for it. So basically, we go through a bunch of appeals. You got to think, like, there is a process to the appeal process, post-conviction relief. Your first appeal can literally be made right after you're found right after you are sentenced. You can orally put a motion to appeal the verdict right then. And so a lot of times that is what happens. Then the next one you'll see is a post-conviction relief. And then you start seeing the other appeals at the different levels of the justices. So I don't want to read all of these, but I just wanted to show like how many times this was asked upon appeal in 2007, all the way to right now. there's still, I could not find a decision that had been made one way or the other as far as a new trial. But this is the last one where in June of 2022, Myers asked for a new trial based on the ruling of Judge Sweeney. So Judge Sweeney is the one that, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, this was the one I wanted to read. Yeah, he is the one that was going to, that said that based on what was the points, the arguments that John Myers's attorneys wrote in their appeal, that he found that there was cause for a new trial. So therefore he should be released, and that the state did not, I'll read it here in a minute so you'll hear it all. But like, yeah, so basically this judge said, yeah, like he shouldn't have been found guilty based on his amendments, like his basic, civil rights. His rights were denied him, and for these reasons, I said that he would be released on June 16th or 15th of 2022. And so the Attorney General filed an emergency motion with the federal appellate court for an order for him to not be released on June 15th, and that he must stay in prison until the U.S. Court of Appeals reaches a decision on whether he gets a new trial. So then in August of 2020, the 7th District Court gives their decision. What was that I wrote? What pages? 28 through 31. These are so long. I love them, but I know that I'll bore y'all half to death if I read them all, but I did read it all. What was I doing? What did I say? 28? Yeah. The list is long, so we will recap just a few of the most revealing and inculpatory statements that Myers made just after Behrman went missing. Myers called his grandmother. Okay, so his trial was based on this was the bulk of his trial. There was no DNA. There was no like smoking gun. It was the what do they call that? The preponderance of evidence. So this is what the jury found John Myers guilty for the murder of Jill Biermann with a shotgun to the back of her head. Just after Behrman went missing, Myers called his grandmother, Betty Swafford, and asked for $200, telling her that he was a suspect in the case. Around the same time, he showed up at his parents' home crying and said he was leaving town and never coming back. Swafford's full testimony was devastating for Myers. She told the jury that in 2004, her grandson called her and said that he had, quote, a lot of things to think about. He then went further and told her that if the authorities knew about the things on his mind, he would be in prison for the rest of his life. Later that night, when he dropped his daughter off at Swafford's house, he cried and told her that he wished he hadn't done these bad things. Swafford heard these statements as relating exclusively to Behrman, and despite feeling a deep-seated family loyalty, felt compelled to come forward and share the information with authorities. Remember, too, that after Behrman's disappearance, Myers told his mother that he had been fishing in a creek in the woods and came upon a bone and panties. He likewise told his cousin's husband, before the authorities recovered Behrman's remains, that he bet the police would find Behrman's body in the woods. Aside from these statements to family members, the jury heard from an array of friends, acquaintances, and community members recalling similar comments For example, Myers spoke frequently of Behrman's case and even aggrandized his role in it, like falsely telling his ex-girlfriend that he was the one who found Behrman's bike. Even more, he told his former coworker Dean Alexander during a discussion about Behrman that if he was going to hide a body, he would hide it up north in a wooded area. Myers' comment foreshadowed what happened over a year later. Behrman's remains were found in the woods just north of Bloomington. And then there was John Royal, Myers' former cellmate, who told the jurors that Myers brought up Behrman and her bicycle repeatedly, calling her a, quote, bitch. And said if she wouldn't have said anything, none of this would have happened, end quote. All of this testimony regarding the unsolicited statements that Myers made to those around him about Behrman's disappearance and the murder went untainted by any of his trial counsel's errors and by any measure defeated his defense. Our examination of records leaves us of the firm conviction that even without counsel's errors, the jury would have reached the same conclusion. And John Myers, guilty of murdering Jill Biermann. Because of the strength of the evidence presented at trial, our confidence in the jury's decision is not undermined. And they cite the comparative cases. Finding no prejudice despite deficient performance when the state's case was very strong and made a different outcome not reasonably probable. Myers has fallen short of demonstrating what the Supreme Court has told us in Essential to Relief, rooted in claims of ineffective assistance of counsel, that the likelihood of a different result must be substantial. We reverse the order granting Myers' petition for a writ of habeas corpus. And I have a better map than that, so we won't look at that. Trying to remember which one was of course I didn't write it. Must be this one. But, like when you read these appeals, you can see, basically what was presented as the, like how did this jury find him guilty? We can get the trial transcripts. I'm not sure if we can until it's the last appeal, but I don't know that for sure. But I think it would be interesting because this is definitely a case built on his own words being used against him. And we are seeing that with Delphi, with the alleged killer of Abigail Williams and Liberty German, with Richard Allen. His words are being used against him, even though, like similar with this case, there was a direction they were going on. They thought they had it figured out. They spent all this money, did all this search on this one crazy lady's word, which we've seen many crazy ladies and crazy men in the Delphi case. But, like this, they went that way. Then once they found her body, they're like, like new direction, reframe the case. Then they start putting together the timeline of Myers, the location of where she was, her bike was found, with the location of his home, his phone records, circumstances all compiling together to find him guilty. His own family's testimony of him making some of the statements that I just read, but that's basically it. The shotgun that that was used in the murder of Jill. They found shell casings that led them to believe it was a certain, it's a 12-gauge shotgun. And his brother, it was sometime after the murder, he was storing his gun at his parents' house. So this is John's brother, and he reports to the police that his gun was missing, and it would have been after the murder of Jill, and that gun has never been found. So that was his own brother that highly implicated him in that. But that's not definitely like definitive proof of his guilt. So they're taking that piece, and then they're taking the witnesses, which are a lot of his friends, acquaintances, his cellmate, and they're putting together all of the statements that he made to them. Once they're in court and they're under oath, it's no longer like considered hearsay like it would be if I just like told you, like, oh my gosh, my cousin told me, this. So everything was done properly, but like it's still a very there's just not a lot of like meat to it. But at the same time, you have to keep in mind that this was in 2000 and it is now 2023. And I also have to keep in mind that, like I was talking with Mayo earlier, and he had said that the appeals, they're all about procedure. They're not about like what makes sense. They're not about like fiscal responsibility. They're not about any of that. They're about procedure. So, that's something to remember when, we see a case where you're just like, wow, like this is like really kind of crazy. Should he be granted a new trial? I don't think so. But that's just my opinion. And those are like buts. So is he where he belongs? I think so. Do I have as much like conviction about John Myers's guilt that I do about Ashley Gar's or Garrett Hurst? No, not at all. But that just shows you, this is just a good example of like when you don't really know even the basics of trial court procedure, constitution, rights, legislation, and all the judicial system as a whole, and the impact that has. And you can't really responsibly make claims and say things out loud. Like you shouldn't. You can, because you do have freedom of speech, unfortunately, sometimes, but that doesn't mean that you should just see so much, like just all over the place, just every little thing you grab onto, and it's all salacious, and it's just drama without really like using Occam's razor, like just applying like that, like as soon as not just Delphi, but in so many cases, you see law enforcement can't talk about an open case. There's things that they can and can't do, and usually the one that is telling them what they can and can't do is the prosecutor. And the reason that the prosecutor is doing that, because he wants to win at trial. That is his job. It is a job, and when you enter in your emotions and they take precedence over your job and what feels right and what is the most dramatic and attention getting and all that, like you're really losing your grip on how this whole process works. It's just so crazy to me. But I'll put all of these in the in the chat or in the description after this live ends, and you guys can fact check me and read those if you like. I find them very interesting, and the more that like, we're not prosecutors, we're not judges, we're not law enforcement. I'm not anyway. And you have to know your limitations and what you can and can't offer into the community, the true crime community, and make those decisions for yourself. Can you be irresponsible and reckless and sensationalistic? Absolutely. Like, it happens all the time. Can you be responsible and just stay within your lane? Yes. And that's what I try my best to do. But yeah, so that's it. Anybody have any questions? Chaotic, you got to stay for the whole thing. A lot of times hey, Ivy. Yeah, I saw you earlier. They're biased against the defendant going in. Hey, Grizz. Hey, Mother of Dragons. Oh, no. Listen, that was an awesome panel. She handled that live like a pro. Well, thank you, ma'am. She looks so tiny. I wish. We're trying to buy all that testosterone. Yeah, I was really just trying to I don't want to talk about it. Let's just get this information out there and then we can talk about it. But I was probably being a little bit pushy this morning. Hey, Polly. And I think I saw Hybrid Pisces in here earlier. I wanted to make sure I said hi. Really? Well, thank you. Oh, I almost blocked you. Oh, that would have been terrible. Thank you. But, just something to make you think and see that, with Delphi, everyone's just, they're, McClellan doesn't know what he's doing and he's messing everything up and they're going to lose at a trial. And this is a case that had a lot of the same elements that the what was his name? Senega? Similarities that he has with McClelland, and he was able to present his case to a jury, and they found this man guilty. And it has made it through all of the appeals processes from right after the sentence to right now. We're still waiting on whether he gets a new trial right now, which, if you think about that emotionally, of what that has to be like for the families. Like, they literally never get any peace. Literally, a piece of their heart has just been torn out, never to be filled again. There's no closure. There's no justice. None of that really matters when you lose a child. Those words are meaningless. I'm sorry, but they're meaningless. It's a forever hole. And it can't be filled by anything else. It's the worst pain that you can experience in the world that we know it, in my opinion, and I think in the mind of most people that have children. And so you got to think about how horrible the last, I'm terrible with math, but almost 20 years has been for the family, of waiting on judges to make decisions based on, and they can read these appeals. So they can, like, I've done that with other cases where you're still awaiting the decision made by the courts, and you're like reading it. I'm like, oh man, I know she's guilty. Like, I know he's guilty, but this could be something that is a technical error, that is just the procedural error that could get this case booted out, and then that would mean that the state they could decide to retry the case, or they could just decide to dismiss it, and then that person's out on a technicality, you know? Like, so think of the emotional turmoil that her family has had to be in, and then what's going to happen next? 65 years, it's 85%. So now we're going to start looking at parole. It's just, it's a, that's why I've said since I started doing this, with my aunt, she was murdered in the 90s, and her murderer killed himself. And I can remember, holidays and the family just like really feeling like they were robbed of getting justice for Tammy. And I thought that same way too, until I really started learning about the judicial system and the appeals process. And I mean, you can take it all the way up until, the president of the United States. You go through the, every single branch of office. There's just so much. And this isn't even a death penalty case, which gets even more. There's so much more allotted for them. And these families have to go through this for all of these years. All of these years. And then they have to start worrying. They don't get a reprieve. If they get denied all of their appeals, they still have to worry about the parole board letting them out, before their actual sentence is completed. So, you just have, like, it doesn't end. But by Roger, like, ending his life that day in the woods, even though he did get to suffer like for a good 16, 17 some hours, because he didn't kill himself the right way, and his nephew didn't know where he was. Like, he just took him out in the woods, confessed to him, and then said, run, and if you try to stop me, I'm going to kill you too. So he takes off. He doesn't know how to lead the police back to his uncle's body, and so it takes them like, I think it was I have all the papers up above me, but it's like 12 and 16 hours that he laid out there and suffered. And then he finally died. He succumbed to his injuries, way later. And that was the best justice that my family really could have got, because we never had to worry about appeals and whether he was going to get out on parole, or what was he doing and what was he saying and what was being done for him throughout the different courts. And he would be out now, and he would still be, his family, like, I still check in on, just they, mourn his death, and like it's all like glossed over, like he's not a sadistic killer, so it's kind of weird. But the not having to worry about him was a gift to my family, and when a case, not saying that like I'm like a for murders offing themselves. I'm just saying, in this particular situation that pertains to my life, he offed himself, and it was the best thing, looking back, that could have happened for my family, just because of the worry and fret that is the justice system, which I believe in wholeheartedly. So it's a double-edged sword. But when a case is, there was a, earlier this week, there was someone that had looked at my case, and there's a bunch of Richard Allens in Indiana. And I think it was just an honest mistake, and like how we get excited, or think that we found something. Found a Richard Allen that had changed his plea recently, as in like May. And it was the wrong Richard Allen. It was a Richard W. Allen, and it was on like I think it was like a driving while suspended case, and he did change his plea. Ah! Oh my God. Terrified. Somebody's home loudly. Sorry. Scared me half to death. But yeah, so basically, I've lost all thought. Now I'm just having a fear response right now. So what was I talking about? I have no idea. I really have no clue. Isn't that so funny how like a distraction can literally just empty your mind of everything that you were saying seconds before? Oh, when a defendant that is guilty pleads guilty, that's the best outcome, because you cannot appeal your own admission of guilt. So that is really the best, for the long haul. Yeah, we want a trial. We want to know what happened. It's been a case that's been just so riveting, and pulled everybody in. And the statements by Doug Carter and other of the talking heads in this case have just made it kind of like, ooh, they put out these things of like, one day you're gonna get to hear all the details, and you're gonna be, like so surprised, and never going to see it coming type deal, and just kind of building it up into this thing where that's not really might not be what's best. It might not be what's best for Abby and Libby, even though, like there is nothing more that can be done, and their families know that the most. They want the person that killed them to be held responsible. And they may not even know yet. And a lot of times it's only in retrospect that you think about, wow, I would have had to live all of these years just worrying about it. So that's really all I have for today. Unless anybody has any last questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah, I do that too, Wife Lilith. I've signed up for so many freaking Docs Pop notifications. And then, like every little, anytime there's an entry, relevant or not, like you get them all. And it was like, oh my gosh. Every time I go to my email, I'm so glad I set it up to like go to a different email instead of the one that I predominantly use, because it is just like entry after entry after entry because of so many cases. But yeah, DocsPop is very nice because you sign in to DocsPop, and a lot of times there's more information on DocsPop. But DocsPop in my case are your public access to courts. Thank you, Grandmasaurus. Yeah, thank you for the reminder. Totally blacked that out. Hey, Chris. Hope you're doing good, buddy. Does anyone have the original picture of BG, the one with the handcuffs, scarf, and striped pants visible? Wait. I don't know what can you clarify? Um, yeah. Yeah, it does. Yeah, it is nice. It's overwhelming to see all the emails because I hate red. I hate red numbers. But, yeah, it is nice. A lot of people don't know about DocsPop either, so they just rely on my case when DocsPop actually has the information in there before, my case most of the time in most counties. Um, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Um, thank you, Cher. Glad you were here. I'm glad you were able to chat. You figured it out, hon. Cher's been telling me after my lives that my chat she couldn't find my chat, so now she's found it. Was a copy of a copy from Carroll County newspaper. I wish I knew what you were talking about. I don't follow Misbehaved at all, so I don't know what she put out. But I'm curious now. I see one where it's at the Flora House, and I believe that's Josh Ayers, but I'm not seeing any recent photos of him in a scarf, striped pants, and cuffs. I don't know, but if you want to send it to me, French, my email is coldtruthpodcast@gmail.com if you want to send me the picture. But yeah, you guys have a good night too, and thank you for being here, and I'll probably be around on other channels later tonight. I think LA's going live. Ruckus, I believe, is going live as well, so make sure you go over there and subscribe to them. So I didn't have any mods that could put, any of the links in, but, I was off reading, and I will add some of my places that I will be, randomly popping up on lives. I think LA and I are planning on doing like a weekly morning type show together. And then I think he's going to be coming on mine for just, randomly for getting his opinion and things. I really like him, and I enjoy working with him in Ruckus, and I like hanging out over there, and hearing about just different things, and just, you just get like, I can't listen to it anymore. I can't listen to Koberger. I can't listen to Letitia. I can't listen to Delphi. I can't listen to it all anymore. And so, just finding other places to just kind of take breaks, but still be involved in the YouTube community, things like that. I've been having a good time over on Deport Session and with Kai. Kai's Custom Designs, and I have some new tumblers coming. I can't wait to go live and show them to you guys. I'm super excited. They're going to be very special to my heart. But hey Mayo, thank you. All right, guys, have a good Friday. Have a good weekend. See you next week. Oh, and I post where if I'm live on someone else's channel, like I will always put it in my community tabs, but I know that a lot of people don't get those, like I don't for other people unless I go at the top of your computer screen or your phone, you can clip the tab that says community tabs, and then everyone that you're subscribed to, it'll show you like what's on their community tabs. That's what just a good way to keep tabs on people. But yeah, so check there, and a lot of times I'll have posted like, hey, I'm live over here, come join our conversation, just to kind of I like doing that. And happy Cinco de Mayo. Hello, Blind Squirrel. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Thank you. And a taco. Very nice of you to do that. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Please hit the like. Please hit the subscribe. Like I do, I'm blessed with like a lot of the people that watch my shows are subscribed, but there is about 30% that are not, that consistently watch my content, but they're not subscribed. So please hit that subscribe button, and your support means a lot. I hope you have a great weekend.